At Capella University, education is as smart as the world around us. With the FlexPath format, you can take classes at your own pace, set your own deadlines, and even leverage your previous experience to move faster. Now that's smart. Learn more at capella.edu.
At Lowe's, we're your go-to for great gardening values every day. That's why we've lowered our price on select bagged mulch, now starting at just $2.88 a bag. Mulch helps prevent weeds and retains moisture, and when you put it down around trees, shrubs, and flower beds, you'll see how beautiful it makes your outdoor space. Just in time to welcome back family and friends. Shop online and pick up in store. Lowe's, home to the best part of summer. Selection and product availability vary by location. While supplies last, U.S. only. Excludes Alaska and Hawaii.
Hey guys, it's Allie. Welcome back to Infertile AF, the podcast. This is episode 119 called Alex. Guys, I'm so excited to tell you about Belly for Women Prenatal, which just hit the market. 92% of women don't get even close to the 450 milligrams of recommended choline they need in their diets. And in a recent study, most prenatals don't contain much of any choline at all. Belly's women's formula includes 400 milligrams of choline. Belly did things differently when they created their prenatal. They looked at the research and they evaluated what key ingredients were needed to help women prepare their bodies to be the healthiest they can to conceive, grow, and welcome new little lives. Belly is formulated with the right nutrients to help boost your fertility, increase egg quality, and support IVF to increase your chances of conception and a healthy pregnancy. Then once you're pregnant, Belly is gentler on the stomach to reduce the effects of morning sickness, made with methylated B vitamins and the right amount of choline to support your baby's development. To get started with Belly, go to bellybaby.com and use code ALLIE15 for 15% off your first month of either Belly Women or Belly Men. Again, that's code ALLIE, ALI15 at bellybaby.com. That's BELIBABY.com. Thanks, Belly. All right, guys. So today I am talking to my incredible friend, Alex Fain, who is the guy behind Pursuing Fatherhood on Instagram. He is one of the very vocal guys in this infertility community, and I'm so lucky to have gotten to know him over the past couple years since I started this podcast. He has spoken at Fertility Rally Live. He's been very open about he and his wife Laurin's infertility journey. And I did this interview a handful of weeks ago, but I wanted to save it for Father's Day because he's just a really great guy and a really, really good dad. And you'll hear all about that. So today, Alex is going to talk about his male factor infertility issues and how he and Laurin used a donor to conceive. So it's a really sweet story. It's pretty funny at times, and I just hope that this helps anybody going through male factor infertility or donor conception. I hope it makes you guys feel less alone. So thank you to Alex and Laurin and their daughter Delaney, and happy Father's Day, my friend. Without further ado, this is Alex's infertility story. Hey, Alex, it's good to talk to you again.
Yeah, good to talk to you, Allie.
Thank you so much for doing this. I would love to start at the beginning with you. And as a man, like a young man, did you always want to be a dad? Like, did you know that you were going to have kids?
Oh, yeah. Maybe I don't know. I don't think that's something that I hear all that often from other guys is like, I've always known I want to be a dad, but that is the case for me. I don't know why. I had a really good dad, and so I had a really good example of that. And I always knew that was something I wanted. I have 2 little sisters and 2 little cousins that lived on the same street as me. And so I always kind of just felt like, I don't know, I was always kind of helping take care of other kids. And it's just always something I loved. And I've always been kind of good at it, just good with kids and love being around them. And so, yeah, something that I did always know, just kind of, assumed or thought I knew was going to be a given in my life.
Okay. So what happened when you met your wife or wife to be? I guess she wasn't your wife when you met her. That would be weird.
Well, we met in high school, so it'd be even weirder.
Yeah. Same with me. Same with Vince and me. We were 16.
Yep. We were 16 as well. I was my first day at a new school, and in my very first class, walked in and there was Laurin, and her story would be that she, I was the new kid, so I knew no one, but when I walked in, she was sitting there with her friends and called dibs on me.
She did?
I walked in the door. Yes, she did.
That's awesome. And, you're like the hot new guy.
And so then within less than a month, we were dating. And so it was pretty instant. We just both, I don't know, we just hit it off. We've just always gotten along really well. And so anyway, dated all through the last couple of years of high school and all through college, and just always knew that we were going to have a family, and just kind of a given. And because we had already been together for so long, we decided, we got married pretty early, pretty young. We were 23.
Okay.
So, I mean, that was young for us. We were the first one of our friend groups, either of our friend groups to get married. And so it was kind of just a strange thing to figure out together. But we were like, well, we want to be young parents. We're going to, and then we wanted to spend a couple years just being married, especially since we were the first ones to get married. We were like, well, if we have kids now, no one we know is going to have kids. So anyway, we were like, we'll wait a couple years. Well, a couple years turned into 5 just because we were traveling, having fun, and just now letting people kind of catch up to us in their, get to the same phases of life and that kind of thing.
Right.
And so, 5 years in to marriage is when we actually started trying to grow our family, and just did not go the way that we expected it to at all.
Yeah. So talk me through that. I mean, I know a lot happened, but when you guys started to try, she was just not getting pregnant, or like what was going on?
Yeah. I mean, just kind of, I didn't really know what to expect. I just kind of thought, you get off birth control and then you get pregnant. That's how it seems to work for everybody else. And so that's kind of just what we expected. And, about 6 months goes by, and Laurin's starting to get very, very sensitive to other, women getting pregnant, and it seems like we're the ones getting behind,
right. Kind of You're like, wait, we were waiting for y'all. Now you guys are surpassing us.
Yes, exactly. Like everybody's leaving us in the dust now. And I specifically remember one time about 6 months in that one of my best friends that had just gotten married, a year or two earlier, announced that they were pregnant. And I came home and told her, and she just started sobbing. And that's, I think, the first time that I really realized, like, oh, okay, this is really hard on her. This is, she was expecting to have been pregnant months ago at this point. And so that was kind of the beginning for me of realizing how hard it was on her. It really, up to that point, wasn't hard on me because I just kind of thought it'll happen. We're just being impatient. And
right. And that's what you hear from like society too, right? And probably family members, and like, just relax, it'll happen. Like,
exactly.
Don't think about it so much.
Yeah. And I think I fell into that category. Just like, calm down, normal. Babe. Like, this is, it's okay. I just didn't realize how painful it had already become for her, I think. So, from then it was like, I dreaded whenever I saw on Facebook somebody was pregnant, or one of my friends told me they were pregnant. I was like, in fact, I had some people that told me they were pregnant, and I said, please let me tell Laurin that you guys are pregnant. Like, please don't tell her.
Right.
Because
you're such a sweet husband to do that. But I get it.
I knew she wouldn't want to be caught off guard like that. And I also, it was trying to be a good friend too, because I was kind of like, in the back of my mind, like, you're not going to get the reaction that you probably want and deserve out of her, because she's going to be pissed that you're pregnant. So, there was some maneuvering there for sure. Yeah. And so then we got to about a year in, and she's pretty close with her OB, and had been very open about, hey, we're trying, it's not happening. And so finally her OB was like, okay, come on in, let's do some tests, and couldn't find anything with her. She had no, we couldn't see any obvious reasons why Laurin would have any trouble getting pregnant. And so then they were like, well, Alex needs to go get tested. And then I really kind of went back to this is stupid. We're being impatient. This whole thing's ridiculous, but whatever. I see how bad this is affecting you, and I'll just go get this taken care of so that it'll make you feel better,
Right.
And so go in, have my analysis done. And then we get a phone call, a week or two later, that there is 0 sperm Yeah. And that was just an earth-shattering moment, I think, for both of us, just not at all what we had expected. I think, we both fell into the lie that, it's only women that are affected by all of this. And, that I had never even heard of this happening to any guy.
Right.
And so, I'm like, I don't even know anybody. Is that even possible? There has to be a mistake. And just so confused and shocked. And so they had me go in and retest and got the same results the second time.
Wow.
And that was just, it's such a weird, grief is such a weird thing because there are certain moments that I can vividly remember that I will just never forget. And then the rest of it just feels like a big fog. And that's how it felt. It felt like there was just a fog, between us and in our house for weeks, probably months, where we were just in this darkness, and then we start, okay, what's the next steps? We got to go, let's go see a urologist. Let's go, get some follow-up testing done. Well, we found out that we did have, that I had another issue, which is just known as a varicocele, just an enlarged vein, like varicose vein, and that they can do a surgery to repair that and, kind of improve your odds of getting better production and stuff. So we did that, got that taken care of within 2 or 3 months of that original diagnosis. And so went through all of that. And then you got to wait 6 months to go retest after that, just to kind of let the body kind of reset.
Wait, can we backtrack a little bit, Alex, to the surgery? Because I know that you've talked about this with us before. This is not easy surgery and it's painful. The recovery is painful, right?
Yeah, it is. And it's not, there are more invasive and more painful surgeries. Like there's a few different types of like sperm retrieval surgeries that are done now. And those are more painful, and more invasive typically. Some of them, I guess, they just kind of go in with a needle, but some of them there are incisions and tissue extracted. And, gets pretty intense and pretty painful. Wes from Detour to Dad, he's talked about, he had the microtesty procedure where they go in and they, directly into the testicle, they're making an incision and removing tissue and stuff. Yeah. So mine was a surgery. I was under, anesthesia but the incision's more like a hernia, surgery incision. And so, cause they're just going for the veins really.
Gotcha.
And so, but still, yes, painful. The recovery was not fun. It was, right. I remember like riding in the car a week later and just sitting in the car and hitting bumps in the road was really painful.
Right.
Not a fun experience at all.
Yeah. And tell me, how were you able, like as a guy, like I'm always so curious to see how you felt emotionally, like going through all this. Like, were you able to talk to your friends about this, or did it make you feel like less of a man that you had to do, like what was going on, not to put words in your mouth at all, but what was going on in your mind?
Yeah. I told one friend that the truth about what was happening and what the news we had gotten and the surgery I was having, and I lied to everybody else. In fact, we were on like a, beer league kickball team, just with some friends. And, so I had to miss a couple of weeks. It was a lot of fun. Yeah. But I had to miss a couple of weeks after that because of the surgery. And so I told everyone that I had hernia surgery. Yeah. And I just was like, I was embarrassed and ashamed by the whole thing. Yeah. Our moms knew that we, what we were going through and that I had that surgery and everything, but no one else. We kept it pretty tight at first. We just, Laurin was just trying to protect me. I think she needed to talk about it more, but she was trying to protect me and because she knew I was kind of just embarrassed and emasculated and ashamed by the whole thing. And so that was a tough thing to process for sure. Right. And then to kind of feel like you're alone. And we had kind of an interesting encounter, must have been just a few months after I had that surgery. So I've already had the surgery. We're waiting now to retest and we're already kind of talking about next steps. Like, what if this doesn't work? What if it does? That kind of thing. And we just randomly bumped into this couple that we've known I've known the wife for most of my life. And we bumped into them at a wedding and just kind of were, catching up. And she had written a Mother's Day post on Facebook a couple of years before, talking about how they had struggled with infertility before they got to their kids. And, they're so grateful to finally be experiencing a Mother's Day. celebrating a Mother's Day. And so I just kind of approached her at this wedding, and I said, thank you so much for, sharing a little bit of your story on there. I said, it's made us feel a little bit better. We're currently kind of going through the same thing, and we've been kind of private about it. And she just, I had not seen this girl for years, and she just unloaded their whole story on me, that they had gone in, had no sperm. They had done the varicocele repair surgery, and that there was no change for them, and that they had actually used a donor to get pregnant and have their children. And my mind was just blown. I mean, I was just standing there like, oh my God. I mean, their story was exactly like ours at that point. And so I have to, go flag Laurin down at this wedding. I'm like, you have to, come talk to her. And so that was kind of the first moment for us where we realized, like, okay, other people that we know are going through this or have gone through something similar. They're just not talking about it. They told us they just word vomited their whole story on us. And then they were like, oh crap, please don't tell anybody, because we haven't even told like most of our family. And, but she said, I just felt like I had to tell you. Something just made me feel like I needed to tell you.
Wow.
And, that honestly, like that changed my life, because then it kind of released me a little bit to kind of go, okay, first of all, this needs to be talked about. Second of all, this is not as rare as I thought. And our doctor had told us, when we started bringing that up to her, she said, you do know people that have gone through this or something similar. You just don't know that you know them, they're not talking about it. And, so it was kind of it was such a freeing moment for all those reasons, but then also to go, oh, okay, so there are alternatives. Like, even if this doesn't work, we could still, because my thing all along had been, am I just never going to be a dad now? I mean, that was kind of like, I was hyper focused on that point. Like, am I ever going to be able to have kids now? And that's just a devastating thought for me. And so that kind of opened my eyes to, okay, there are other avenues that are, out there for us if we need them. And so a couple more months goes by, day before Thanksgiving, or maybe 2 days before Thanksgiving, we had to go in for our follow-up appointment and found out that there was no change. So we still have nothing to work with after all this. We're now another year down, basically.
Right.
And no closer it feels to having kids. And so
did it feel like the clock was like ticking?
It did, at that point, I think, trying to think of the year, but I think at that point, Laurin had just turned 30. Okay. And, for her, especially, kind of going back to the beginning of our story, like everything, we'd always been like the first ones. We'd been dating the longest. We'd been married the longest. And so now it's like, especially for her, for a woman, like I'm turning 30 years old and I'm not even pregnant, and we're not even like, it's not even on the horizon for us, Right. That was just crushing for her, it felt at the time. And I remember we went to visit with her RE. We had never even met before, to kind of talk about this whole process. And the RE, Laurin was talking about, I'm turning 30. And the doctor was like, you're going to be one of my youngest patients for the next several years. Like you're not, 30 is not as old as you might feel like it is. Yeah. And, but for her at the time, that was a big deal. So
yeah, that makes total sense.
And then here we are, day before Thanksgiving, find all this out. And then I got to, kind of just plow through the holidays with a smile on your face. And
so hard. And I'm sure everyone is like, probably the relatives that you hadn't talked to, like, when are you guys going to have kids? You've been together since you were 16, where are these babies?
Constantly. Yeah. I mean, and that year in particular, my younger sister and her husband announced that they were going to adopt. And so that was their kind of big announcement at Christmas, like, hey, we're kind of starting the process of adoption. And one of my aunts, in front of my 45 person, family Christmas, turns to Laurin and I and says, you're just going to let her have kids before you? And I mean, Laurin just, if I would have let her, would have just gone like full, UFC on her or something. She was just enraged. And so I had to, yeah, for sure. And I kind of had to, I had to kind of pull her aside and my aunt aside and say, hey, listen, like, we've been trying, and you saying that kind of stuff is not helpful to anyone. In fact, it's really hurtful.
Good for you for saying that.
Yeah, she's just kind of she's a very like abrasive person anyway, and just, you know, kind of just shrugs it off as that's just the way I am, which just rubs me the wrong way. And then especially when it's like targeted at me and my wife, and was very painful for Laurin, especially. And so I was just like, shut up. So, you know, that I kind of tried to stop that, because it was getting bad, you know, all the comments and stuff, especially like, you're 30, you guys been married for 7 years now. What are you doing? Right. And I guess in hindsight, I mean, it's hard to expect people to know better when you've hid what you're going through from them. But at the same time, it wasn't something at the time that we felt like we wanted to be talking about constantly. We already felt like in our own house, we were talking about it constantly. Like, it's all we think about. And so it's kind of nice to have all these relationships where we can just kind of like live our lives normally and pretend like everything's okay for a minute. Totally. And so anyway, we kind of, after we got that news and got through the holidays, we were like, what are we going to do? And we decided to pursue some therapy. Laurin kind of nudged me towards it, because I just needed some time to like grieve and process everything and think about what our options were. And I think was in shock too, honestly. I could not wrap my mind around the situation that we were in, especially watching everybody now at this point moving on to their second kid. And, you know, here we are still stuck.
Right. Completely.
And so we took about a year to just really process and grieve and travel and talk to each other. And we worked on our relationship. It really ended up being a good thing for us. But at the time, it was just not easy. And even doing the counseling stuff, like, it's very beneficial, but it's hard work. It's just hard to sit down and work through all those feelings. And so we did all of that. And along the line, met another family that we kind of knew through mutual friends that had gone through, again, the exact same situation as us. They had a kid through a donor, and they were about to start trying for another one with the same donor. And so we really they were a lot more open than the first couple that we had met. And so we just kind of felt like we wanted to talk with them and kind of get as much information as we could about that whole process. And they were really helpful with us about, you know, what is, if we go down this road, what are the processes going to look like? What are the next steps? How does this all even work? What are the donor banks websites look like? What do, you know, we were so clueless. We had no idea. And at that point hadn't even we had decided to change clinics, but at that time hadn't even met with the new RE. And so we were just clueless. And so I'd rather talk with somebody that's gone through it than just like Google it 100 times in the middle of the night, like I've been doing. Right. So anyway, they helped us through that whole process. And just, I think that was another one, you know, just like that first family, that meeting the second family and just seeing their kid and meeting them and talking to them about the whole process and just going, they're just a normal family. They're just another normal family. Like, no one on the outside is like, oh my God, that's that weird family that, you know, used a donor or whatever. It's just like, even their friends and family that knew their whole story and everything, like, they just treated them totally normal, which of course they did. But from that position that we had been in for so long, it was like, you're just constantly afraid of, what is this going to look like if we do this? And are we going to, you know, is this, I don't know. It's like, we're going to end up with some alien child or something. Like, it's just such a weird foreign process when you've never seen it up close, I guess.
Absolutely. I mean, how are you to know? This isn't something that you just know unless you're in it, right?
Right. And like I said, we didn't even know anybody that had, you know, male infertility issues, let alone, you know, used a donor to conceive their children. Turns out we did. And we have found more of them since then. But it's just some of that stuff that, like, because it's not normalized, it makes you feel so abnormal when you're in that position. And so that was another just life-changing moment to go and connect with them. And so we're very grateful for those families. And after all that, after we had taken a year to do all that, we did decide that was going to be the best road for us. And so early that next year, we started sitting down and looking through through the donor banks and all that, which was for some a very, quick process, for us, very long, tedious process.
Yeah. Tell me about the process. Like, what were you guys finding as you're looking through the banks, and what were your, did you come up with kind of a list of things that you wanted to look for, like physically and otherwise, genetically, like all that stuff? Like, what were your kind of parameters?
At Lowe's, we're your go-to for great gardening values every day. That's why we've lowered our price on select bagged mulch, now starting at just $2.88 a bag. Mulch helps prevent weeds and retains moisture. And when you put it down around trees, shrubs, and flower beds, you'll see how beautiful it makes your outdoor space. Just in time to welcome back family and friends. Shop online and pick up in store. Lowe's, home to the best part of summer. Selection and product availability vary by location. While supplies last, U.S. only. Excludes Alaska and Hawaii.
Discovery Plus has what you're hungry for, with new original series and a supersized collection of favorites. It's the largest collection of food shows anywhere, all for only $4.99. Discovery Plus, the streaming home of food, plus so much more. Start your free trial.
Yeah, there's a lot to look into, and especially here in the U.S., we have several kind of larger banks, and me being a white, pretty average, like Western European, boring heritage. That's super common. So, we were fortunate in that there was lots of options. That also did make it a little more difficult to choose then, because you're kind of,
because there's so many.
Yeah. You got to whittle it down somehow.
Right.
And so, we looked into four or five different banks, and I just felt like I had to have all the information. That's just kind of how I work. And I made a huge master spreadsheet that had all my, all of our top choices. And there was probably 25 on there total that I had whittled it down to. And so, yeah, we're looking at, physical similarities. At first, that was kind of the most important to me. Just how can we make this look as normal as possible, basically, was all that was going through my mind. And the longer we looked, the less I cared about that. It was important to me in that I wanted, okay, if we're lucky enough that a kid comes from this, I don't ever want them to kind of get I just would hate for them to get like the mailman, comments on the street or something like, you look nothing like your family. Like, where did you come from? Those are the things that when you're going through this, like, you can't get out of your head. Yeah. You just become obsessed by those thoughts. And so
I get it. Yeah.
That was really important for us early on. And then when that was my biggest and most, critical criteria, I realized how disappointed I was with what I was left with, because I didn't like anything else about the people. And so
what were some of the other things that that's on there, like, for people that don't know?
Yeah, you can see all kinds of different things. Like I said, here in the US, and different banks kind of show a little bit different things, but it's all pretty much the same. You can see, obviously, like height, weight, eye color, hair color. Most of them in the US, you can see baby pictures or young child pictures. And then on a few of them, you can also see adult pictures.
Is it that thing where you have to pay extra to get more info? Or
you do. Yeah. So you can go, like, right now, you can go on any of the major banks' websites, and you can see kind of a general, like, okay, I can find a 6 foot, 185 pound white guy. Like, you can see that, but you're not going to see much else about them. But then if you pay a membership, you can see all the details. And so you can see, like, I have a folder online for the donor that we selected that, I can see his pictures. I can see his medical history. I can see his family's medical history. I can see, like, you pretty much just immediate family, or maybe like grandparents and aunts and uncles. And then there's like essays that they'll write, or we have an audio interview that he did where they're just kind of, the bank's just kind of asking him general questions. Why did you do this? Tell me a little bit about yourself, that kind of thing.
Is it weird to listen to those?
It is. It was really weird at first. And honestly, there was a couple that we liked on paper, and then we listened to their interviews, and that turned us off, from them. Right. And so it was just a weird process. It's hard to explain. People are like, oh, it's like a dating website. I'm like, yes, except, like, this isn't choosing, like, someone to meet at Applebee's. This is like somebody to to like provide half of the DNA to make up the child that you want to raise.
Right.
Like that you can't even put words to how critical that you become over, choosing that person.
Of course. It's like the biggest decision ever. The stakes have never been more high.
Right. And I felt every ounce of it. I just was like, I took us 3 or 4 months to do this because I was just so overwhelmed. I'm not a good like impulse decision maker anyway. I'm just an overthinker and an analyzer. And this was the worst. I just could not, make a decision. And
right. And what's Laurin's input? Were you guys like, we both have to be 100% on board with whoever we choose?
Yeah, she was really, good about understanding that this was really difficult for me. I mean, it was for her too. She's like, listen, man, like half my life I've been thinking you and I are going to have, babies together and all this. Like, this isn't what I pictured either. And so I knew it was really hard on her as well. But she was really big on just saying like, okay, I want you to take the lead on this. I want you to have the final say. Obviously, I want to look and I want to give input and I want to make this decision together. But if it comes down to where we have kind of a handful or you like one more than the other, I want you to be able to make the final decision.
Wow, and that's incredible.
Yeah, she kind of empowered me to take the reins a little bit. I think what at the time, I don't know that I really realized it, but I was kind of hurting her feelings because I felt awkward looking with her. And I still can't even really explain why. It's just, I think it just added some pressure to it. I felt like I needed to be doing something productive instead of just like rereading this person's profile for the 50th time. And I don't know. I just preferred to look alone.
Yeah.
And then I would kind of go, hey, you might look on there because I added a couple to the, to the list that you might, want to look through or something. And I think she had kind of romanticized probably isn't the right word, but I think she just kind of thought this is going to look like us sitting on the couch holding hands and making this perfect choice that we feel great about together.
Right. In bathtubs side by side with candlelight.
Yeah, exactly. Looking out into the sunset.
Right.
That's not the way that it went for me. It was a lot more analytical for me. And there just was so much more that went into it. So, and we did look a lot together, but I just needed a lot of time to look through it by myself too. And so in the end, we found somebody that we both felt good about. And she kind of, said, do you feel good about this? Are you sure this is, I'm like, well, no, I'm not sure. I'm not sure about anything, but anyway, we finally decided on someone. And then of course, by the time we do, there's no vials available.
Oh God.
And so I had to call and they said, well, we'll put you on a wait list, and which I kind of was not that upset about because it bought me some more time.
Sure.
Except then they called or emailed me and said, hey, there's 4 vials available on this person, and you have 48 hours to decide if you want them or not. And if not, then you go back to the back of the line.
Oh.
And so we were like, oh my God, just kind of panic mode again. And we used every minute of that 48 hours to think about it and reread and re-listen to interviews and, everything again before we really did just kind of have some peace about it. I mean, it's still a huge anxiety ridden decision. At least it was for me, but we both felt good about it. And so, pulled the trigger and bought those 4 vials, and then they'll store them on site and then ship them to your clinic whenever you're ready. And so Laurin had actually been kind of prepping, like going through a mock cycle at the time, just because the RE wanted to kind of see what her ovulation cycles looked like, how many follicles you're producing and all that kind of stuff. So it actually worked out pretty perfectly that when we bought those vials, they went ahead and shipped a couple of them to our clinic, and we had our first IUI the next month, which was unsuccessful. But then we had another one the following month, which was successful and resulted in our now 1-year-old daughter, Delaney.
Oh my gosh. So tell me about that. When you got the results from the successful IUI, how did that feel?
Well, it's kind of strange because she was, the disclaimer here, she was using very old and we later realized expired home pregnancy tests that a friend had given her like years before when we first started trying to get pregnant.
Okay.
And she had just like, that was all she had.
Okay.
And so she goes in on, day 14, which is when they told her to test, and she goes in there and tests and it's negative. And she goes back in the next day and tests and it's negative again. Oh. And I mean, like, I have pictures of it because I was trying to kind of just document the whole thing just for us.
Yeah.
And, there is not even a squinter on those things. I mean, it is
a squinter.
There's no line on that.
Okay.
And so we were just crushed. I mean, because we're just like, now we're kind of getting to, what if this doesn't happen? We only have these 4, like, are we gonna have to choose another donor? Are we gonna have to, like, what do we do? And so another full week went by, and the doctor had basically said, call me whenever you start your period and we'll start the next, process over. Well, she still hadn't started. And so that next week, and that full, 7 days goes by after that. And she's like, wakes up one morning and starts going into our guest bathroom, which she never does unless at the time I'm going to go take a pregnancy test.
Okay.
So she starts walking over to that bathroom. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, you are just setting yourself up for disappointment. Do not go over there. And I was wrong. She went in there and took a pregnancy test and it was positive.
Because you had the non-expired ones by this point.
By this point, I think we had upgraded.
You ponied up for some good ones, some new ones.
We were like, oh, those expired 2 years ago. Okay.
Oh my God.
So anyway, then it's kind of like full panic mode, because we had already, at that point, we had let a lot more people into our story and kind of where we were with everything. And so we were kind of keeping everybody, up to date on where we were at. We had already told everybody, like, well, second cycle didn't work either. And so we're kind of regrouping. And now we're like, oh my God, we might actually have a chance to like surprise some people because they think it didn't work. And so we kind of secretively panic called the clinic, and we're like, we need a test today. We need a blood test today. Mm-hmm. And so go in, got the positive beta results there, and actually got to go and surprise our moms that day and tell them. And
oh, that's so cool.
So it ended up being a really cool deal, but weird to find out, a full week later that it was actually positive. It was just a strange experience there.
Right. Well, as you know, that none of this is ever a straight line, right? It's never easy, any of this stuff for anybody. It's so crazy.
It's so true.
I want to talk about your Instagram, which is Pursuing Fatherhood. If you guys are listening and are not following Alex, definitely go check it out immediately. You launched your site June of 2019, or your account rather. The first graphic that you posted says DNA doesn't make a family. And you had this amazing caption about what you had gone through. Tell me about why you wanted to start this account. And I'd love to talk about the piece of, you've talked to me before, me and Blair, about kind of grieving your genetics and all that. And, being a donor conceived family. So I guess part one would be, why did you start the account? Let's start there.
Yeah, I think during that time, between making that decision and then buying those vials and moving forward with actually, going through these cycles to make it happen, I had just kind of gone all in. I'm like, at this point, this is the decision that we have made to grow our family. This is how, if our family is going to expand, this is the way that it's going to be. And I need to do everything I can, learn everything I can. And I'm just a talker, just very communication driven person. And so I just wanted to get out there and talk about it, because I had been sitting there. I mean, now you're 3 years in, mm-hmm. and I had really barely come across 2 people mm-hmm. to talk about it with, and just started to realize at that point I started looking at other Instagram accounts, and there were no men sharing. I couldn't find a single person out there talking about it.
It's wild.
And
it's not surprising. It's just like, no, they're out there.
Right. And that was the frustrating part for me, is I know they're out there and I can't not even an anonymous account. I can't find anything. And so I found a couple women that were in similar situation that were sharing. And I don't know, that just kind of, between that and I started listening to some podcasts that were talking about it, and specifically ones that were interviewing either donor conceived people or people that had gone down that route. And, it was still all women, but at least it was just kind of nice to hear other people going through the same thing. And so I just thought, you know what, there's no like male perspective on this at all out there. And I know that I've been looking for it. And so there's probably other people that are out there looking for it too. Even if it's just women looking for, what might my husband be feeling about this? And which that is largely the case, as it turns out. I mean, but still, I knew that people were going to be out there looking for that perspective because I had been as well. And so that's kind of what made me want to do that. And it's that actually, I started it a couple of days after the IUI that ended up working. And so it's just kind of strange that my account has literally started like right when we got pregnant, basically. We didn't realize it at the time, but just kind of crazy how that's worked. And so, yeah, it's just, since then, it's just kind of been, chronicling our life.
It's so great. It really is so great. And you are the first person that I came across who was a guy who had an account. So, I just think it's so important what you're doing. I'd love to talk about, what I think you were the one who mentioned that phrase. The first time I heard it was grieving your genetics. I remember writing that down when we first talked to you guys. Yeah. It was either you or Wes, but I think it was you. So tell me about that part.
Yeah, that was not easy for me at all. I think we all have some type of, just weird connection that we don't even really think about a lot of times to our genetics and our ancestry. And, people are obsessed with the ancestry DNA tests and, just, I don't know, we all feel some sense of pride with that, at least a lot of us. And so it's just a weird thing. And I think as a man, especially, like, you just are kind of groomed that like you're proud of that and you pass on your name and it's just, I don't know, it's just this weird thing like in our society. It's not just our society, it's a worldwide thing. And I don't know, I think between that and my dad, actually, who I had mentioned was a great dad. He passed away suddenly when I was 19. And so I think for me, like, everything about infertility after that was kind of, it also had the weight of like, you're not going to pass on, what your dad left you. I don't know. It just was this weird thing. Like, I'm the only, male in my family. I have two sisters. And so like, it's going to be me that passes on our name, or it's going to be me that, this or that. And I don't know, it's just this like unnecessary added pressure, but to me, it was heavy. And so I really had to grieve that. I think I had like really thought, man, how cool would it be to like have a little boy that happened to look like my dad? Or I don't know. I think I already thought like, this is going to be so hard to go through this next phase of my life without him. It was hard enough to like go through college and get married and all this stuff, go through infertility without him here for that support. And I know being a parent and not having just knowing that he's not here and he's missing out on that is really difficult for me. And so that just kind of the DNA piece just added an extra weight on that for me. And then beyond that, it's just like pride, you're just kind of proud of who you are and where you came from. And so I don't know, that was a difficult thing for me, but I think seeing those other families, like I mentioned, and then especially once I started my Instagram account and really started seeing the number of people that are out there that are going through this exact same thing and how they're able to grow their family in different ways. And my little sister adopting two kids that aren't related to her, or, biologically, seeing all these different things just really opened my eyes to the fact that, like my first post said, that DNA doesn't make a family. And that's not at all to discount the importance of DNA, because I know that it is very important. But man, you can be a really good parent without being biologically connected to your kid. And that was it was an important thing for me to realize. And so I don't know, I've tried really hard to impress that on other people too, just to make sure that they believe it.
Yeah. You did this really cool post, if I recall, when you were feeding Delaney her last bottle. And it was just so like emotional and heartfelt, and talking about the ways that you bonded with her, and I think that is a really legitimate concern that people have with donor conception. They're not sure if they're going to be able to bond. And clearly you have. So I would love to wrap it up with just, talking about that a little bit and the bond that you have with your little girl. And I don't know why, but now I'm going to start to cry. I love all of your posts are just so sweet. The one about Easter, the one about running into your therapist in church. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, I mean, it is emotional. It's just, for me, especially thinking back on all, as I sit here and like tell our whole story and all the things that we've gone through, and then think about her and realize like everything that we went through got us to her is just, it gets me every time. But I've written about that a couple of times because it is everybody's huge concern that I'm not going to feel this connection. What if they don't feel like I'm their parent or, whatever. And we still, she's not a teenager yet. So we'll see, what we have to deal with at that point and as she grows up. But at this point, I really do feel like that the bonding thing is so much about effort on the parents' part. And man, I have done all of that. Because I worried about it and because I just want her to grow up and feel like, man, I never doubted for a second how much my dad loves me. I never felt weird or like we had this lack of connection. Whatever obstacles we might face, that is not going to be one. I've just been determined of that. And so, I gave her a bottle every single night before bed. I mean, and the pandemic was one of those things that, sucked for everyone, but it allowed me to kind of slow down and spend the entire first year of her life really kind of just focusing on her. We weren't going anywhere. We weren't seeing anyone. We had kind of a nice little set routine every night. And I was able to really spend that time and bond with her. And I've grown ass man that was sitting there crying, feeding my daughter her last bottle the night before she turned 1, because it was just the end of an era that had been so special to me. And I don't know, going back to the very beginning, all the work that I put into choosing the donor that was right for us and, choosing the right clinic, and just then we finally get pregnant, and just all the things that I tried to do to connect during pregnancy and working on her nursery and talking to her in the belly and, all of those things, I tried really, really, really hard. And I know that I've shared this story with you before, but I'll share it again because I love it. Just one of the best moments of my life. The night that she was born was kind of just a crazy night, and she was born about 6:30 p.m. And so, and she was born about 3 weeks before COVID got crazy. So we actually had visitors that could come into the hospital and see her. And then, once they all left and we got moved to our new room and we're getting settled for the night, and Laurin is just exhausted. I mean, she just, birthed a human being. And so she's just passed out. And I was laying there holding Delaney on my chest, and it was middle of the night, and the nurses come in, it feels like every 10 minutes to poke her and, take her temperature and make sure she's okay. And so they came in and they took her from me, and they're, doing all these tests on her, and she's just screaming bloody murder, just crying. And so then they, wrap her back up and they bring her back over to me. And I grabbed her from the nurse and I just put her back on my chest, and I was kind of just looking at her, and I just was talking to her, just real, it's okay. It's okay. And she just immediately stopped crying and looked up at me and just kind of sat there like a newborn baby will, just kind of sit there, mouth open, just looked right into my eyes, and then just laid her head on my chest and went back to sleep, and didn't cry. And that moment was so huge and important for me. I just knew in that moment that she knows I'm here to take care of her. She knows who I am. She has heard my voice before. She feels safe with me. She feels comfortable with me. And that is all that I could ask for in that moment. And I think, especially when you're talking about a baby, I think that says just about everything that I could say about the bonding process. And it's only gotten better from there.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. And Alex, thanks again. If anybody wants to learn more about male factor infertility, or using donor sperm, or parenting a donor conceived child from the male perspective, definitely follow Alex at Pursuing Fatherhood on Instagram. And I know he's very accessible. So if you have any questions and you reach out to him, I'm sure he will respond to you as well. So thank you guys for listening. And I also wanted to remind you, if you are going through this and you're struggling and you're looking for community, definitely check out Fertility Rally, which is my other business that I founded with Blair from Fab Fertility. It is a place for support groups and content and curated events and family. Actually, everybody's become so close. It really has become a family. If you're having a hard time, we would love to meet you and support you. So definitely reach out to us. We're on Instagram at Fertility Rally, or you can email us at thefertilityrally@gmail.com, or you can always reach me on Instagram at Infertile AF Stories. So I hope you guys have a great weekend, and I will talk to you next time.
At Lowe's, we're your go-to for great gardening values every day. That's why we've lowered our price on select bagged mulch, now starting at just $2.88 a bag. Mulch helps prevent weeds and retains moisture, and when you put it down around trees, shrubs, and flower beds, you'll see how beautiful it makes your outdoor space. Just in time to welcome back family and friends. Shop online and pick up in store. Lowe's, home to the best part of summer. Selection and product availability vary by location. While supplies last, U.S. only. Excludes Alaska and Hawaii.
Discovery Plus has what you're hungry for, with new original series and a supersized collection of favorites. It's the largest collection of food shows anywhere, all for only $4.99. Discovery Plus, the streaming home of food, plus so much more. Start your free trial